how about Space Seed?
I think Tyler had some ideas for why it's called Space Seed.
So I think the writers wanted to bring back Khan at one point, and they decided that leaving him on a planet somewhere where the Federation could keep track of him would bring him back into play at some point. Series didn't pan out that way, lasted only 3 seasons before they could really explore the idea, and then it later became the foundation for Wrath of Khan, one of the best Star Trek films of all time. Also Space Seed because there's a lot of sexual undertones and sexism and just domination.
Yeah, from the way that MacGyver's responds to Khan after he gets her on the floor, I'm pretty sure they just had sex after that. Or either then or at some point. And from the way that she helps him, it's clear that she's kind of in the thrall of chemicals of some kind. So
yeah, she's hypnotized or something.
Yeah, he's got this, as what's his name said, magnetism. She's basically a true believer after one point. The way that he seduces MacGyvers was cool. The sense of chess pieces being brought into play and into place. As Tyler was saying, Space Seed is because the writers thought they wanted to bring him back and they didn't do that, or it's about Khan filling MacGyvers with his Space Seed.
It's also the whole idea of eugenics, and that Khan might be the seed of a new species that's going to grow and evolve.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. So one of the things that was proposed about Wrath of Khan later on is that Joachim, the one who dies, I shall avenge you, he says, that he was actually Khan's son. And we don't really know that, but I do imagine that Khan must have had children, because he must have had sex with her a lot. And that's what I would have done if I had been him, either of them.
I would have had sex with Khan, yeah.
So, okay, starting from the very first scene, it appears that Kirk and Spock are both wearing makeup. Like it's very clear to me.
Everyone's always wearing this weird coloration over their eyes.
And then the remastered edition, which I watched on Netflix, with the new CGI, was pretty good. I was pretty impressed. I was like, this looks really, really cool. And then there's something not quite right about the music. I felt like it was off in the very beginning. For the rest of the show, I was kind of marveling how this was the way that things were done back in the day. You would have 3 or 4 songs, and you would play those at key moments in different episodes.
Yes.
Because apparently, for budgetary reasons, they only had the money to produce those 4 songs, and they had to reuse them over and over.
These original series episodes were produced on a 1-week turnaround.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they didn't have time to be writing incidental music.
Those poor cast and crew members.
No, they worked very hard.
Sleep. So, there's something interesting, right? So Spock talks about your last World War. Yeah, World War III was in the 21st century, not the end of the 20th. Welcome to wrong, Spock.
You just got to assume that they're for some reason they're in a time period where they're very misinformed about history during the original series.
Yeah, they get a lot of stuff wrong. Yeah. Then there was that whole comment where they talked about how the ship seemed to be expecting them. How does a ship from the late 20th century realized that it needs atmosphere from, like, I guess maybe because the ship was being scanned, like
could be.
it was something, but then doesn't that, like, I don't know, it was being scanned by a ship. Maybe, actually, this is cool. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe from the very beginning, they designed the ship to be responsive to other ships, like scanning them, so that they could have somebody beam over and investigate, or come on board and investigate, and then from there, what they could do is, capture those people or capture the other ship. Or maybe that was part of their plan all along when they were designing the ship. That's what I like to think. Because the augments, as they are later titled in Enterprise, they're very clever and they're very smart. And I like thinking of them as smart, except when it comes to their really weird-looking clothes.
That must be late 20th century fashion.
Yeah, right. Late 20th century from the view of 1967. That's what they thought we would be wearing. So, yeah, that's a thing. And then, so Khan, right? Khan is the whole point of this episode. Khan is the whole fun of this episode. Khan is the most beautiful, awesome, cool thing in the episode. There's like an assumption of authority that he carries with him from the first moment he emerges. An assumption of like royalty.
Yeah.
There's the subtlety of this moment where he literally looks Kirk up and down as a potential enemy, all while in sickbay, and then tactically withholding his full name. Like, literally everything Khan does, every subtlety to everything that he does is tactical. It's towards an advancement of power or an obfuscation of the truth towards his own utility. And like the actor, great, so great. And like, so it's both, I've got admiration just like Spock and, just like Scotty and Kirk and McCoy have for Khan generally. Like, I have that same admiration. He's brilliant. He's brilliant as a character. He's brilliant as a villain. He's fun to watch. He's interesting. He's maybe on some level more interesting than our regular characters even. I mean,
oh, for sure.
Like the way that he does things.
Yeah, he's very interesting. You don't get this kind of character very often in Star Trek, someone who's very extremely competent at taking power. Another interesting thing about him is that he's not in any way petty. He's very generous. And whenever Kirk sort of scores a victory on him, what he does is he laughs and says, "Excellent." He never shows, like, any sort of, anger. I always shows anger at MacGyver, but it's in the process of gaslighting her. So he's a really cool character.
Yeah, he's got a dignity to him.
Yes, he's always above everything. That's his poise. Everything that happens, he gives the impression that he's above it, and that he intended it.
Oh, interesting that he intended it.
That's why whenever he gets sort of beaten in a small way, he says "excellent," as if it's going according to his plan.
Oh, so he's also just obfuscating in order to appear.
Yeah, I think there's some of that. I mean, you got to do that, but it's really my favorite part of this episode is the way he interacts with Kirk, and you can tell that that Kirk knows what's going on, and he's very good at this. And every single interaction they have, every single line is a move in this power game that they're having. And it's very subtle until the end when they're fighting each other with PVC pipes. But it's very, very well done.
No. Actually, it's only Kirk. Kirk's got the PVC pipe.
It's a little disappointing that in the end, like, you'd think the way that you would defeat this guy would be something that is clever or involves, like, discovering a flaw in his character or something. No, it's you grab a PVC pipe and
beating it repeatedly by a pipe. Yes. Yes, totally.
And also, you can see Khan's insanity coming through at the end. In the end, he's going to try to blow up the Enterprise. What would he have to gain by doing that, right? So you can sort of see the insane revenge aspect of this starting to come through, which, of course, dominates the movie.
Well, so you think that he has a predilection for a kind of narcissistic insanity even way back in the beginning? Like, he's just...
Well, the question is, why is he threatening to blow up the Enterprise at the end?
Oh, because he couldn't win, probably.
Yeah.
He felt like,
but if you can't win, there's still no utility, and he would still get greater utility by continuing to survive. He could go to prison and maybe Jake could break out of prison, right? But instead he just couldn't stand the idea of losing, I guess, so much that he decided to blow up the Enterprise. It's really sort of hard to analyze his character flaws in this episode as opposed to the movie, because he really doesn't seem like a weak person in any way as he's presented in this episode.
Yeah, it makes the perspective of him in the movie kind of interesting too. It's like what's really going on there. But he's kingly. I like that about him too. He just tells people what to do. He just assumes that he's got this authority. And I've always he was one of those characters. So in Thelema, they talk about kings. The kings and the slaves. The kings know they have a right to what they want, and the kings are those who own their lives and who own their surroundings, and who just, because of their assumption of power and authority around whatever's going on, they get more of what they want. And so Khan was actually one of those that I looked at to model off of when trying to incorporate that kind of Nietzschean virtue. And he really is, he's kind of a hero as well. When you look at him from the perspective of what is it? Malik says, "Man is something to be overcome," and then of course this is from the Augments trilogy that I think we discussed last year. Of course, Archer gives him this absurd look. You thought he was talking about you? He could have been. I don't think genetic engineering was in his thing, but I also like how I like his kind of magnetism thing that he's got going on. I like how he completely ignores MacGyver's questions so that he can play with her.
Of course.
It's great.
Yeah, and he plays with her hair and says, "Why'd you do your hair this way?" And it looks like the same afterwards. It's pretty much the same.
Oh, maybe.
He lets out a couple locks, two.
So there was that. Let's see. The episode was really well written. The slow revelation of Khan's identity, just the whole thing. I liked it. Why does Khan get a uniform? Is one of my questions. I guess they were
what's going on there?
Out of clothes.
I think they were out of clothes, and they didn't have one of those clothes generators that we saw in Discovery.
Their clothes generator was broken. Maybe that was probably what's going on.
The new uniforms. They can't generate the new ones.
So here was a curiosity of mine. Why does when Kirk realizes that Khan is a threat, literally, there's this point in this one scene when he says, "You've answered all. No, you've answered all of my questions," and it's really clear that he's
that's a good line.
This guy is because of how it plays, it's really great.
It's a good line to assert authority too, because what he's basically saying is, "I know everything I need to know about you."
Yeah.
He's saying you've just revealed your hand.
Except that he doesn't know apparently that Khan has the ability to open doors.
Yeah, well, it's just a line,
Let's see. I've got a lot more on this. So the music, we already talked about how that works. They reused the Cage music for Khan's escape, incidentally. And then when he awakens the other augments, I was curious. It looked like they were doing, I don't know, Tai Chi or yoga or something, which was really nice. And I had the thought, I was like, when he's walking through that line of men and women, I was like, I bet Khan is sleeping with every one of those women.
Of course.
Because he can.
He's the alpha
male. Can. Yeah, he's the alpha of the alphas. And then there was this moment right near when Khan got control of the bridge and stuff. There was this moment where Kirk and Spock communicated entirely with their eyes. I really appreciated that. I was like, that is exactly what you would expect from people who hung out for many years and all of this, on a team. I did like the moment when Khan crushes the phaser, which, wasn't hard considering it was probably made of like plastic.
Yeah.
Like a prop. And then the stunt doubles. Oh, man. The stunt doubles for Kirk and Khan were so obvious. Just like disappointing. This is the first time I've noticed it, but now that I've noticed, I can't not notice. It's just like, man. I noticed that there was dirt on the floor during Khan's hearing. Not the most important thing to be paying attention to, but definitely the sort of thing that happens when you've seen the episode a dozen plus times. And then I was impressed with, after Kirk subdues Khan, there's a man who knows his ship, right? He presses all the right buttons very quickly to turn the impulse overload off.
Yeah.
I was like, here's a man who really knows his ship, or at least he plays that really well. Because clearly, when you look at them, none of those levers and buttons have any labels.
They don't have any labels. You just got to know. That's what you learn in the academy.
You learn what they all mean. Yeah, I think that's what happens, actually. So, yeah, I give both of these episodes a 9 out of 10. I liked both of them. I enjoyed them. Yeah.
I think, another interesting angle in Space Heat is taking the whole eugenics thing seriously, along with the sort of insanely exaggerated gender roles in this episode. It's, in terms of evolution, biological evolution, it's in cases where there are these extreme gender roles, where there's like one alpha male that mates with all the females, that you get the fastest evolution. And it's interesting that Kirk respects basically Khan's masculinity enough to risk the entire universe's safety in order to leave him on a planet where he'll have like a fun thing to do. So there's some very interesting point here about evolution and how it plays with the whole Star Trek ethos. Seems like, as Spock points out, despite all their ideals, there's some part deep down that still admires this sort of ancient biological gendered drive.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting.
So
that maybe we do have a will to power or something.
Yeah. So I'd give these both 10s. I don't see any problems with these episodes. It's 10 out of 10 within the original series, of course. Taking into account the weird gender roles and the special effects and the music and the stunt doubles, and they're turning this thing around in a week, man. 10 out of 10.
Tyler?
Oh, they're both the episodes of the year. Episodes of the year, all years.
That's a lot of years.
You could say billions.
That's a lot of matches.
Perfect setup.
All right. Thank you, guys. Live long and conquer many planets.